Welcome to the Smartman Show with Brian and Nate. I am Nate.
I am Brian.
And, oh my God, episode 13 now includes video.
Yeah, this is weird because we initially started this to strip it down and just have the voices, but then we realized that video goes further on the interwebs.
Yeah, I kind of realized I was being kind of a bitch about the video. You know, at least I think I was. I still don't use it on my personal podcast because it's better to just sit there without the thing. It's stream consciousness kind of thing, you know. But for this, you know, it's. I'm trying to get better at my editing chops and things like that. So you got to have video if you're going to do that. So.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be more work on the editing side once you add in the video and all that good stuff. So, good luck to you, sir.
You're welcome. But yes, episode 13, we're back. And of course, please rate the podcast, follow the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, tell your podcast, loving friends.
Comment on everything.
Oh my, every single thing. Everything.
It's important.
Man, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your prestigious award.
Thank you.
Which was Michigan Association of Broadcasters' best morning show in not this particular market, but small markets, right?
Yeah, so they have categories like Detroit would be market or category 1, Detroit and Grand Rapids. Category 2 would be like Saginaw and Lansing. Category 3 would be like the Traverse Cities and the Ann Arbor, that type of size town. So,
but you won Best Morning Show, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved, sir.
It was great. My nightmare was having to go to the award show because I don't dress up. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I got into radio to never have to dress up again.
We talked, and I know for a fact that this is your worst nightmare.
It is,
It's
dude.
just is going in. You do a lot of events. I don't want to say doing things in public, but, a dress-up event where didn't you have to go on stage and present awards?
Yeah, I had to present for television.
Oh, my God.
So here's the thing, man.
Like, that's nerve-wracking with a teleprompter and all these things.
And I can't see for shit. Can I just... Like these glasses, dude, these glasses.
Did you try to take them off? Did you have like a rehearsal or anything?
I did get like a 2-minute rehearsal before the gala started, and it's called a gala. So it's fancy, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody there was in tuxedos, and I'm like, I'm not wearing a tuxedo. And it was funny because very, very cool people, very sweet people that ran everything and kind of let us all, but they kept stressing, like, if you don't know what the dress code is, think tuxedo. And I'm like,
Every time I think tuxedo, I think F that, so I'm not doing that.
Not comfortable, man. Just the tie, it just bakes, the sweat just bakes in your body, especially when you get on stage and the lights are shining on you. It's horrible.
I think when you found out about this, you told me shortly afterwards, that you had to do this thing, and we're talking about, that it is an actual nightmare to do. It's one of those things you have nightmares about, and then you got to go do it.
Well, and you know my history, dude. I have been on field presenter, filling in for a friend of mine who lives in Wisconsin. He's the hype man for the Green Bay Packers, and they needed somebody to fill in. I've been in front of 70,000 people, and that's not a big deal.
Right.
But getting dressed up and being in front of 1,000 of my peers,
I bet if you were
big deal.
I bet if you were in front of 70,000 people in a tuxedo,
horrible.
That'd probably be horrible.
I would have gotten sick before I had to be there.
But it was just a cool moment where it's like, you got to face your fears. It's like Henry in Ted Lasso. He was afraid of the sewers because of it, and he had to go down in the sewers, take a tour. You got to confront the fears, man. Because you could have just not done it.
And you're right. I couldn't. And I almost backed out.
Really?
I did.
Really?
I was like,
how close were you?
I almost lied and said that my stomach couldn't. It was like I was sick and I couldn't do it. You're gonna have to have somebody fill in. I actually did. It's funny. I almost had an out because my car wouldn't start that morning. I think I left a light on or something and I drained my battery. Thankfully, I haven't had any issues since, but it almost didn't start. And I was like, oh my God, after I bitched and complained I didn't want to do this to my boss, now my car won't start. They're going to think I'm faking it.
That happens. Yep. No, that's the thing where it's the same thing if somebody like calls into work for a bull crap reason.
Yeah.
Where they're lying, they're not sick. They say, oh, I'm sick, I'm not coming in. And then you get sick immediately afterwards.
Right.
It's like, that's karma hitting you right there. But you did it. That was amazing.
I got to go up. I got to present an award. I got to accept an award, which was cool. It was good. I have to tell you this. Even at my wedding, I didn't wear dress shoes.
I know.
We wore just Converse.
I know. I was there.
And yeah. I mean, yeah, of course you were. But I can't remember because the last time I wore dress shoes was long before my wedding, and I can't even tell you when. I got married in 2013.
How'd it feel? Because I sent you a meme of Danny Rojas and just being totally uncomfortable in his dress shoes.
They are
Horrible.
the worst thing ever created.
Yeah. I've had
ever.
I've had one idiot in particular who came to be the manager at my current work, you know, and he was trying to wear dress shoes. But you got to work, dude. Like the managers are running, and he's trying to wear dress shoes, and he's like, "Oh my god, my feet hurt." I'm like, "Is this your first day working in a restaurant? What are you doing?"
It was horrible, man. I feel like if you want to torture somebody, like if there is, okay, let's put it this way: if there is a hell, and we all have to have our own personal hell. That would be mine, having to walk around in dress shoes for all of eternity. It was horrible.
So then you went from one nightmare to another.
Yes.
What hotel did you stay at?
So we were staying at the Motor City Hotel and Casino.
I stayed there once.
And it's actually beautiful.
It's really nice.
It's really nice. But I think I ended up on the crazy floor. Now,
No.
I expected...
Just one whole crazy floor?
Well, nobody else... I talked to everybody else, and they were all on different floors, and none of them had the issue we had. My wife and I, after the award show, tired, ready to go to bed. It's probably 12:30, and starts out okay. Just as I start to drift asleep, there's banging in the hallway, people laughing, loud, yelling, whatever. I get it, dude. It's a party place. There was a casino. People probably just got a room to have a party.
Yep.
I can accept that. That died out. Came back again around 1 o'clock, more loud banging, laughing, yelling, whatever. Woke me up. I was like, damn it, I'm never going to get any sleep. It died out. I fall asleep again. Next thing I hear is screaming, yelling, loud bangs, and then all of a sudden a girl screaming at the top of her lungs, "Help me! Help me!" And you can hear her moving down the hall. So I hop up out of bed. My wife hops up out of bed. By the time I got to the door and opened it, nobody in the hallway.
Now, how fast did you get out the hallway? It
Pretty
could have been a ghost. It could have been a ghost.
That's what I'm saying. Pretty quickly. One of two things was going on here. The chick who was screaming for help got snatched and pulled into a room already, or it was a ghost.
Yeah.
I didn't know which one. So we called down to the front desk. My wife's like, "Look, we've complained already about the loud noises up here and asked you if you could have somebody check in on it. But now this is like a police situation." And it was hilarious because it didn't take long. Next thing I hear is radios going. So I look out the little peephole. There's 4 state police already in the building. I don't know why. And there was probably 8 armed security. And they're walking the hallway. So I open up the door and I'm like, I think it's that way, guys. Next thing I hear is one of the officers going, "I got a blood trail."
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I got a blood trail.
I have no idea what happened. It was at that point I told Kat, I'm like, I'm not going to fall asleep. This is...
You didn't look up the police blotter to see what actually happened?
No, I have no idea. And I just decided I wasn't going to sleep.
Let's do that right now. What happened?
Look it up. See if there's any... It may not have even
made it.
City of
Detroit, right?
Well, they left, dude. So I'm assuming they didn't find anything other than the blood trail.
City of Detroit police blotter. I'm realizing I have zero idea how to find any reports. I have zero idea. Your dad and brother are cops. How do you not know this stuff?
Because my dad's been retired for almost 20 years, and my brother, he's not in that area. He doesn't work in the
but it's
Wayne
still
County.
the same. It's still the same sort of process to find these things, right?
I mean, a lot of stuff doesn't end up getting reported.
Oh, fine. I'm not going to find it anyway. Somebody died and then whatever.
No, I'm pretty sure if it was a death, I think we would have heard about it if it was anything like that. I think it was probably some sort of domestic dispute, ended up in a fight. I don't know, the end result, but I don't think they found anybody because they ended up leaving while we were getting ready to leave. The police had left just before us. So
yeah.
I assume they found nothing. But they did find the blood trail in the hallway. That was enough for me. I'm like, I'm never going to go back to sleep. Every time I fall asleep, somebody's screaming and yelling in the hallway. So we ended up driving 3.5 hours in the middle of the night to get home.
I would do that Because I had a similar experience in a Detroit hotel, but it was not Motor City Casino. I don't know the name of the hotel. It was 20-ish years ago, almost 20 years ago. And
20 years ago, by the way, Detroit, much worse areas back then than there are now.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a skyscraper hotel, and the architecture was amazing. But it wasn't
the Rensen, was it?
No,
Oh, okay.
I can't remember. But it was really close to Ford Field. It was walking distance, more or less. But it was clearly under terrible management because it was just run down, and it was really
just beat to hell.
Beat to hell. My room was like. There was all kinds of crazy stuff sounding in the hallways, but I was having a bad night anyway because I had a terrible headache. I was in the middle of a breakup at the time, pretty much in that night. And I remember it looking like blood stains on the wall of this room. And we didn't leave
Did you check the sheets?
No. I think the sheets were clean. Pretty sure.
God, I hope so.
But, I didn't leave that night because I just had a terrible headache and I just tried to get rid of it. But... I remember like the hallway, it looked like The Shining in the hallways, and I would hear people doing crazy stuff every once in a while. But, that was my story. Wasn't as good as your story.
Well, the reason I had to ask about the bed sheets is I stayed in Lansing once, and I stayed at like a drive-up motel. Bad idea. We pulled back the sheets. There was like yellow pee stains on it. And then in the shower... there was an actual cockroach, blood, and pubic hair.
Oh, no.
In the drain. And I was like, okay, time to pack up. We're leaving.
Hey, how did your hotel or real-life nightmare come true? A comment on this podcast in some way, shape, or form.
I do want to say, though, it was a beautiful hotel we were staying in, and I think that we just ended up on the crazy floor. I just think all hell broke loose on our floor because... people that I know who were above us and below us were like, oh, yeah, slept great. Not any noise at all. And I'm like, man, I ended up on the party floor.
Yeah. My nightmare that I wanted to chime in with this story about is getting back on the radio. That was my actual nightmare.
Why?
True. Why?
Yeah.
Because I said I wasn't going to do it.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I first did it. Now, it wasn't an actual nightmare. It was like, the nightmare was going back. You know what I mean? Because
you made a decision.
Yeah.
And
I didn't go back to
on
radio. I made an appearance on the radio.
Right.
For St. Patrick's Day, which included like, I don't know, a dozen or so more, 18 or whatever, a dozen and a half segments with Irish music and me yapping before and out. And you were kind enough to let me do that on this radio station.
Yeah.
But the nightmare was sitting down to do it, and I hadn't done radio in so long that I just couldn't. Dude, I sat down one day.
Nothing felt right.
Nothing felt right. I could not make words happen. I remember telling you my whole process with this podcast would probably allow me to be a way better radio jock now because I'm a lot better at getting these things out. But doing that was a total regression. The first day that I tried it,
sure,
I hammered out 2 of them, and it was the most brutal process where I was just so mad and just yelling at myself in here. I couldn't do words.
That doesn't help either. When you get that high anxiety and the anger kicks in, it only makes things worse while you're trying to do something.
Yeah, and I just eventually I'm like, I can't do this right now. And it got to the point where I thought I was going to really be procrastinating and I might have to cancel on you.
Oh.
I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to do it.
Wow.
And then the next day, I kind of approached it a little bit differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when we're on the radio, you get a good vibe when you're live and you're playing music and you can come into and out of songs and it assists with the vibe, right?
Right.
That was the way I approached it, where I was just, go into the song, listen to the song.
I feel bad. I had no idea that, I knew you were having trouble that first day. I didn't know it was dude.
Dude, it was horrible.
Wow.
And then I came back the next day in different approach. Then I knocked out 6 or 7. Then I knocked out the rest the next day, and it was fine.
Yeah.
It got better as I went along, but I was just like, oh, Jesus. It's like a nightmare going back to radio and then just here, Smitty's back or whatever, and then sucks.
So you didn't want to shit the bed knowing that we were promoting Smitty's going to be doing this segment on the radio station. Like, you didn't want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude.
I get that, though, dude, because you've been away for so long. You don't want to come back and disappoint. Like, I get it. I totally understand that. And it's not a good feeling. And it doesn't help when you're feeling that way because it only gets worse. Quicksand. That's what they call it.
It really is. You were so right to just talk about that anxiety when it's like that anyway with me, because I will rage on occasion.
Sure.
And if I let into the anger and I rage out, then things get worse and worse and worse and worse. Just with anything you're trying to do.
Yep.
I become way more dropsy. I have way more accidents because you're not paying attention because anger is consuming you. You know?
And then the next time you screw up, you get even angrier.
Oh my God, dude.
There's
so
points
real.
You feel like I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but I've talked about when I get anger, I actually physically feel the heat rise from my feet.
Yeah.
Higher and higher and higher and higher until I feel it in my face. It's the weirdest thing, but I physically feel it. And I don't know if most people physically feel their rage, but I do.
I think, well, I'm almost certain that I have pretty gnarly ADHD on some level.
Yeah. And
that's a real thing with ADHD people, is just the outburst of rage, But nobody ever talks about how just everything just absolutely snowball effects, and all of a sudden it's an avalanche. If you don't kill it right away, it's amazing.
I was going to say it's kind of like a circle of rage because you can't get out of that, but I like the avalanche better because, the picture of that avalanche of everything. You've got a little bit of snow on you, and then all of a sudden you're completely covered, and you don't know which way is up, which way is down. That's probably a way better way to describe how it feels when you get into that cycle. You just feel like you're getting buried deeper and deeper, and again, you don't know which way is up at that point, and you kind of have to reset by walking away from it.
That's what I did, because honestly, I am actually very good now at getting myself out of that circle of rage. You know what I mean? It's just practicing mindfulness. You're okay, why am I pissed off? Take a few breaths, realize why you're mad, why it made you mad. Did you misread it? By the time you're done analyzing it and you're breathing, you're kind of out of it already.
Sure.
But it didn't work that day.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, it did, because stepping away from it was a good perspective changer, I think. I think I needed that just to sit for a day.
I had no idea that it was that bad, and I actually feel really bad about it now.
No, I mean, it was my bright idea.
I know, but I just feel bad that it puts you in that place, man. There's nothing worse than feeling uncomfortable doing something and then having it go wrong, because now your uncomfortableness was warranted in the first place.
Well, especially something like that where, I'm pretty familiar with how to do that.
Yeah.
Talking on and being on the radio and that, I'm pretty familiar with it.
Right.
And then it's, like any job, probably. You go back to it and you haven't done it in 5 or 6 years or 4 years, and you just can't remember how to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Yep. It's funny. Anyway, it was a 2 nightmares. What's your radio nightmare? Do you have a radio nightmare?
Because mine get nightmares about radio.
Mine is not about radio. It's similar with the podcast now, where it's just I always have a project, and I just will have nightmare about can't get the font right.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And
man.
If it's just if it was a radio show, it would be a project like the Metallica-thon or something like that. I've had dead air nightmares, but
that's the one.
Yeah.
It happens constantly. So for people that are listening who've never worked in radio, that's the big no-no. You don't want to have dead air on your radio station ever. And so I think most radio people at some point experience an actual nightmare that involves the radio station going dead air, and you can't get it fixed. You can't figure out what to do next. And I find myself freaking out in my dream, and then I wake up and I'm still freaked out to the point where I have to go turn on radio to make sure the radio station isn't actually dead air.
How's your mentality the last couple weeks with the radio station going down because we had historic ice storms in northern Michigan, mostly most of us, and it knocked out most of the radio stations, including yours.
Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, I bet I just am imagining everybody just not panicking, but it's like, what is going on? We are not on the air. This is insane.
It was apocalyptic, dude. Like, if you were punching the radio dial,
nothing.
It was like all the way across the board, except for very few stations that were lucky enough that their towers aren't positioned to the north where it was mostly affected. So one of the towers completely collapsed in the area. Gone. Just completely gone. Actually, 2 towers in the area completely collapsed. Our tower, and bless the rock listeners, because when we posted a photo of it, the tower that we're on was located in a little area called Vanderbilt, but the top 120 feet of the 620-foot tower snapped off and was just kind of dangling by its side. So, of course, I posted a picture, and, half the comments were, have you tried Viagra?
Yeah, no.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, there's like 4 engineers in the entire northern Michigan area, and those dudes have been on a nonstop bust their ass schedule to get radio stations on. Now, we were lucky. We had 95.5 back in just a few days. 105.1 has been down for a while. We do have a temp tower that's going up, so it will be at least at like 85-90% when the temp tower is done, and then eventually in a few months we'll have the tower re-erected and be back to full power. But dude, yeah, it's horrible. Like for a radio person, again, every time I click that button to listen to 105.1 and I'm just like, what do I do? How can I fix this? And there's nothing you can do.
Well, it was funnier because I kind of know how it works. Obviously, I know how the donuts are made, and I was just imagining if you're off the air, in some instances, if you're off the air, you can still stream the show.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the case this time. But
yeah, no, not for the first few days it wasn't.
Right, but it's like I've had the radio stations go out on me before, and it's like, do I want to do a show just for the stream?
Oh, yeah.
Did you do a show with just the stream?
So the stream was down because the power was out too. And so I didn't worry about it for a few days. I actually said, all right, I'm going to sleep in and not go to work today. And I slept in for a few days. I wasn't going to stress about it. There was nothing I could do. The ice storm, I mean, it was like 3 inches thick around everything from the trees. I mean, I had one of our IT guy had called me, and I was asking questions like, when do you think the stream will be up and stuff like that. And in the background, I could hear cracking noises. His trees were literally, he was outside already using a chainsaw to cut one up. And he's like, you hear that? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's the tree that just fell by my driveway. While we were on the phone, dude.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it was constant. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen. I am so lucky that I was on the outskirts of it and we didn't get hit here in town in Mansalona. Nothing really affected me.
There wasn't much far. I was going to say, not much distance between you not being affected and then
because it was in Mansalona, but just north.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, so many friends and that we know, people we know. Just you see video of just trees, boom. Boom, going down, boom, boom, and just the roads. It looks like a Hurricane 5 Category 5 hurricane.
Yeah, and then hundreds and hundreds of power poles just snapped in half, and the lines came down, and there's still people 2 weeks in without power. It was crazy. Like, and that's the other thing, man. Like, as much as I wanted the radio station to be back on the air, I truly wanted people's homes to get the electricity before we got ours. Like, that was a bigger concern because it was still pretty cold when that happened too. I mean, it warmed up, thankfully, like 3 or 4 days after it happened, but it was pretty damn cold when it first happened, and people were going without heat. So I was in that mentality or that mindset where I was just like, I don't care if we get back on as long as people are getting their power back.
Well, that was the thing. I brought up, just the radio problem of it, but I didn't even touch on all, again, people 2 weeks in without power, they keep posting status updates. We're almost there. Nope, not yet.
Not quite.
God, that sucks, man.
Yeah.
I don't even want to go to Gaylord because I usually go to Gaylord to go to Meijer to get, home stuff that I need rather than groceries.
Yeah.
And I feel bad even going over there because I just know everything is chaos still.
Yeah, they've been through the ringer, man. And then, like, the Mackinac Bridge kept shutting down because what happened was all that ice that built up on it then started to melt off, and then they had these huge chunks of falling ice that were like coming down, and you hit a car, man, boom, accident that quick.
Right.
So they had to keep shutting down the bridge. It was a nightmare, man. Just an absolute nightmare. I'm glad it's over. And now they're, finally getting things back to normal, but what a shit show.
It really was a shit show. But done talking about nightmares.
Yeah, let's move on from nightmares.
I want to talk about this that you sent me. And it has to do with the movie Titanic.
Yeah.
And how Rose is the real villain. Now, we kind of touched on a similar topic, not about Titanic, some time ago.
But
prior episode about Jenna being the villain in Forrest Gump, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, well, and see, that was a case of hurt people. She was abused, and I think everybody with the ability to think should acknowledge the fact that she was the way she was because of how she was raised. Rose had everything. She was rich. She had everything. No reason to be a villain.
I wasn't sure how ridiculous you were going to come off in this bit.
I don't know what you mean.
Let's read this from a face. I don't think this is. I'm almost positive this dude did not write this himself.
No, I don't think so. I think he shared it.
With a picture of Rose about to throw the
heart of the ocean.
Yeah,
it's like a $1 billion stone.
Maturity is realizing that in the film Titanic, Rose decides to throw away a $250 million pendant.
At the time.
It was $250 million at the time. In memory of an unemployed man she slept with exactly once, a man who never owned the necklace. She completely disregards the fact that the explorer who brought her to the wreck had built his entire career around finding that necklace. Yet she held on to it for decades on the off chance she'd end up at the wreck site again just to chuck it into the ocean for no good reason and croaks in his bed. Then goes and waltzes past her husband in the afterlife to meet up with her 3-day fling.
It's true. It's true.
Meanwhile, she conveniently leaves out the part where she let Jack, the 3-day love of her life, freeze to death because she couldn't scoot over a bit on the giant door. Oh, and maybe, just maybe, her husband of many years might have liked to know she'd been hanging on to a $250 million necklace all the time. How about her granddaughter who was caring for her? An early retirement fund, anyone? This is the dumbest thing I've ever read in my
What
entire
are
life.
you talking about? It is so accurate. Mythbusters even proved that Jack could have gotten on that door and
maybe.
lived.
But you know who to blame in this whole scenario?
Don't you say Bill Paxton.
James Cameron.
Oh.
And you can throw Bill Paxton in there too now that you brought it
You
up.
hate him so much.
But seriously, James, aside from the Titanic stuff itself, where it's sinking and all that epic craziness, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies. But
It's
it is
really
the
well
most,
done.
Except for the writing, or really anything of common sense right there. It is not Rose, the villain. I'm going to defend her in a moment. Second of all,
well, Cal is a villain. Don't get me wrong. Her boyfriend is an abusive asshole.
for sure.
There's no question.
For sure.
But how do you feel about the fact that and again, this is movie writing, but she goes back to the Titanic when she dies to hang out with Jack? Dude's been dead, and they spent 3 days together. She spent an entire life with a man, and she didn't go find him in the afterlife?
She probably didn't love him as much. You know what I mean? Plus, you're judging God in heaven and what somebody's heaven is. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying, it's cold.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. The things that people actually spend the time to come up with all these cockamamie versions of things, and this is the real villain.
Are you the guy who thinks that Zach Morris is a good man?
No, Zach Morris was an a-hole, and I
Exactly.
knew it back then. I knew it back then. I didn't have to read some stupid internet meme.
Everybody loves Zach Morris. Zach Morris was the greatest. There's nothing wrong with taking a look at people like Rose and realizing she was a piece of garbage human being. I'm just calling her out for what she is.
Whoa!
Her mother's horrible too.
For leaving an abusive relationship and then finding the love of her life.
No,
you
letting the love of her life die.
Yeah, I remember when Jack tried to get on the door and it caved and he fell in the water. So he said, "Hey,
Proven.
Huh?
Proven.
Shut up.
They got the exact door replica
my
in
God.
Mythbusters and proved Jack would have lived if he got on the
Maybe,
door.
but blame James Cameron.
Can't blame James Cameron.
Sure you can. He had terrible dialogue. He had his whole the space at night was not the right
But
space.
to his credit, when he was called out on that and he
changed it.
re-released it, he's like, you know what? I'm going to do exactly what he said. I'm going to fix that
So
sky.
maybe he'll do a reshoot where Jack actually gets on the door. All right.
Did you ever see they have deleted scenes from the movie, and there's one right when she's about to throw the rose, or excuse me, not throw the rose, when she's about to throw the pendant over, and Bill Paxton's like, wait. Can I just hold it one time before you throw it? It's seriously, dude. And she like lets him hold it. Not joking. If I was Bill Paxton, I would have took that diamond pendant from her and thrown her ass off the boat. There, go be with Jack.
And then that dickhead's worried about like, these people have been on this quest for this necklace and blah 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 blah.
Millions
blah.
of dollars
Tough
spent.
shit. Tough shit.
Oh my
Tough
God.
shit. It was her necklace.
It wasn't her necklace.
Sure
it was Cal's necklace.
He gave it to her.
He let her wear it. He did not give her ownership of it.
Her property. Possession is 9/10 of the law.
Oh, so if you find my dog roaming around, you're going to keep my dog because property is 9/10 of the law?
Oh, well, some people can. So, yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I can't believe you can't see how Rose is the bad guy here.
Because she's not.
Wow. I agreed with you on Jenny. I cannot agree. This could be, honestly, a whole segment. We could look at movies and figure out who the villain is and debate whether or not the person's the villain in the movie. We could totally do this.
You know, not the Titanic crew itself that decided to not have enough lifeboats or go back for people. That wasn't their fault, right?
No, that was totally. They were horrible people.
Yeah.
You're now okay, but now you're flipping it because you're taking the fictional part of it and putting it up against the nonfiction part of the story. And I don't think I don't think you can do that because we're talking about the characters from the movie.
I did.
Really? Okay, well then let's talk about James Cameron being a dick again, because you remember the dude who took the bribe and then held out at gunpoint at everybody and then shot himself in the head? He's actually, if you look him up, he is a genuine hero from the Titanic, and none of that ever happened. They shit on a real life person.
Oh, James Cameron ruined the story. He's only worried about like the actual wreck and like making that stuff look real.
That guy, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I read that guy, there's a whole other movie when that guy got older in real life, he lived, the one that they killed off in the movie. And when he got older, he actually is a part of, what is that damn military movie? It's like in World War II, and British civilians got on their boats to go rescue troops from somewhere close by that were stranded.
that was a Christopher Nolan flick. That was Dunkirk. That's what
The
it is.
main dude, the old man with the boat in that, is the guy from Titanic who they made a villain with a handgun. It's the same dude. He did both of those things, except he didn't shoot anybody on the Titanic, and he certainly didn't blow his brains out.
He's a bad guy too. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, dude. I do love the movie, though.
Where do you stand on the is Rose the villain of Titanic?
Yes.
Where do you stand on that side of the fence? Because I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
I stand on grabbing that pendant from her and throwing her ass off the boat.
That's dumb.
She wants to be back with Jack. Let her.
But at the very least, it's at the bottom of the ocean. They can go find it again.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe they can call up that one company and get their little game controller submarine to take them down and find it.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. They were going to do that anyway. They were doing it anyway.
Yeah, but they had real life subs there. Did you watch the documentary that went along with it? Sorry, not to change subjects. They had a really good documentary where
I may have.
They went down and James Cameron had these little robots that they were actually going in because they were trying to get more detail on the interior. It was really interesting to watch. Bill Paxton's in it, so you'd probably hate it and wish the sub would explode the whole time.
Here's the thing. I have watched that documentary, and I actually enjoyed it, and I enjoyed Bill Paxton in that documentary because he wasn't acting. He was just being himself.
Oh, my God.
It's not my fault. He's a shitty actor. You know? It's going to close the show out today.
Speaking ill of the dead.
We're going to talk about what's your manager threshold on the next episode, as well as our stupid kid taste buds now maturing. So
Yes. Yeah, mine's bad.
It's not, well, you're growing.
Well, my wife just told me today that I'm a super taster, which I guess I can get more into that later on. I guess
it's a super taster.
Yeah, it has something to do with evolution and my ancestors being picky people.
Oh man, this is going to be a fascinating conversation, I think.
Maybe.
I can't wait for the next episode of the Smartman Show with Brian and Nate.
Or it'll be horrible.
Well, only one way to find out. Join us for episode 14. Like this episode. Follow the other episodes. Tell your podcast-loving friends. And,
make sure to comment that Rose is an asshole.
Man, I fucking hate that point of view.